All right, welcome back. Lesson 2. We're going to talk about what is love and is marriage forever. You know, love is so hard to explain. I knew when I loved this guy, I just knew without a shadow of a doubt that he was the one.
And you know it when you see it.
And you know it when you see it. It's like you can't, it's almost like someone's like switched, like turned the light switch on. It was that way for me. I was like, oop, light switch on. This is the guy. What about you, hon?
Well, I believe that you have to understand each other's love language.
That's true.
Because what is love is generic. You know, people fall in love. Well, show me when's the specific date and time. And
Right.
not everybody can point to a specific, but they can gather the evidence, right? And say there's specific moments and times and the things that have happened that it made me fall in love. Right?
Yes.
That's what they call it, falling, because it is a process. Right?
Yes.
And, is marriage forever? And I feel like that's something that I truly believe that marriage can be forever, and it should be forever.
Well, and
Let's talk about what they, like what society talks about. What do they say?
in today's society, I feel that, hey, if things get tough, you know what? Go ahead and throw in the towel. So think about this. If you looked at your marriage like you just given birth, you had your kid, and you're like, man, this kid is too hard to raise. I want to send him back. It sounds absurd, right? You wouldn't think that way. So if we took that approach in our relationships, wouldn't we have a different outcome? Right?
It's really about
Yeah.
commitment, right? I mean, you would never give up your kids.
No.
Why would you ever give up your relationship with the one that you fell in love with? Because what I believe, this too, just as well as you do, is that you fall in love and you made a commitment to stay together in sickness and in health. And most people, they get that point, but as soon as they get a little struggle,
Right. When the going gets tough,
they want to cut bait
they want to cut bait, and they want to.
and like go off to the next
Yes.
shiny object. And I'm telling you, when you do that, it's messy and it creates lots of underlying issues. And I
Totally.
believe you can save the relationship by building trust and communication.
Right.
Isn't that what we talk about? So let's tell them about the story. Let's tell them about a story, like the story of when I was in the car dealership, and that you really, you tell me that's the time I know.
Oh man, I know this sounds awful, but at the time Corey was a used car
Hold
salesman.
on. Why does it always got to sound awful?
Huh?
It doesn't sound
Because
awful.
I gave you an ultimatum.
No, it doesn't matter. Just don't stop saying it sounds awful. Just it's the story.
That's the story.
Yeah.
All right. So let me tell you a story when this guy was a used car salesman, and at the time in our lives, I just couldn't see myself being with a used car salesman. The guy was a smoker. I knew that I didn't want that type of relationship. Smoker, used car salesman. So one day I call him and I said, hey, if this is your passion and you enjoy being a car salesman, that's great. That's on you. But I know who I am and myself, and I just can't be with a guy that's a car salesman.
Now, hold on. I'm going to jump in here. Because at this point, this is what's... Now, she'd already told me to quit smoking, and I quit immediately. Okay?
Yes, you did.
So I was like, done. That's out of the way. But when she called me, this was at the moment in our relationship where we were very much an item. It was me and her together, rule the world
Yep.
kind of stuff.
Right.
And when Mama called me and said, hey, listen, this ain't going to work,
Right.
I knew that she was
Hours
not
were horrible.
kidding.
You had one day off, Sundays. I'm just like, I knew I wasn't going to be happy with that type of work schedule.
Yeah.
Something had to change because we were two ships in the night passing one another. And it was,
Yeah,
affecting,
it was
our,
horrible.
it was affecting our relationship.
And so Shelley looks at me when she made that call. Now, it's like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I get the call. Now, I get the call, and I'm going to say I'm not proud of this moment of how I handled it, right?
Right.
But
I get it.
She calls me up and she gives me this news in the middle of the day, and I'm trying to make sales because, like, you guys know at the car lot, like, you got to be ready to go find that person, that car that rolls up and stop that thing, right? It's a lot of work. And so I kind of get annoyed. I'm like, all right, listen, I got to go, and I hang up on her. But as soon as I hung up, man, the alarms are ringing in my mind. I'm like, dude, I got to solve the problem. Like, and I need to solve it right now. And I'm like, who do I know? Who do I know? I can't be a car salesman. Who do I know? How can I change jobs? Because now at this point in time, I don't have a degree. I have, I'm a used car salesman. So if you don't, like, have a degree, you got to manage some stuff or sell some stuff. And I'm selling cars. So I'm freaking out. And then I'm like, wait, I know this guy named John. John's a restaurant manager. I call John up. I'm like, John, listen, I got to get another job. And I'm being emphatic. I mean, like, my life is flashing in front of me. And so he's like, well, you can call the owner. I'm like, good, give me the number. He gives me the number's owner. So I hang up on John. And I heard him grab the phone, and I call the owner. I'm like, hey, listen, you know John? John knows me, and yada, yada, yada. And I set up an interview.
Yep.
And I'm like, boom.
How do you do that?
So then I grab the phone one more time, and I call Shelley. And I go, listen, does the restaurant manager work? And she's like, well, yeah. And I go, great. Boom. And I sing up the deal. Right?
So what the heck? You know, I go back in that moment, and I'm thinking, I can't believe dude just quit his job and found a better job with better hours. I say that loosely, but, right? But this man was willing to move mountains for me. If mama wasn't happy, you know, he was going to fix it. And isn't that what we do when we're in love? When the other person is not feeling fulfilled, or they're unhappy, they're in that state of mind, and he fixed it. And ladies, let me just tell you, guys, if you have a problem, allow the dude to fix it. I know that sometimes you just want to hear them, you know, they just want to hear you, you just want someone to listen and have an ear. And oftentimes we don't like our guys to fix it, but you gotta allow them to fix a thing or two.
At least try.
Or at least try.
So, and here's the thing. This was the funny part about the whole thing. I came home that night, and she goes, honey, have you ever waited tables? I'm like, no.
Have you ever managed a restaurant? Like, how do you have any food service experience?
No.
No.
I said, listen, it doesn't matter. I'm a car salesman.
True story.
And so, but what the thing is, man, sometimes, like, when you're in love, what things that you won't do when you're chasing the love of your life? I mean, I've seen, you know, I've drove from Tulsa, Oklahoma, from Norman, Oklahoma, all the way to Dallas one day just to go spend a couple hours with her.
Isn't
right?
that something?
That's that innocent love, like, I'll do whatever it takes. And we schedule those moments, those times, those special events, and it makes it really creates the magic.
And can I tell you, that's when I knew that he was it. He was the one. I'm like, this man is willing to move mountains, to make me happy. And at that moment, I'm like, I got a good dude, got a great guy.
You knew you loved me.
And I knew I loved him. It was that moment. I knew I loved him.
And I loved her. I mean, I already loved her. I loved her from the moment I first saw her. Are you kidding me? So that leads us to the next lesson, which is?
Do you remember the moment when you first fell in love? I want you guys to write it down. Time, place, where were you? What was your story like? What was that process? How did it feel? How did you know that person was the one?
All right, that's it. We'll see you on the next lesson.